Hey guys, welcome back to the show once again. Today I have a 2010 F-150 with a 5.4 liter 3-valve engine in it that needs spark plugs. Dun dun dun! I know, right? Real nightmare. But what you need to realize is that ever since mid-year 2008, Ford did a major redesign of the engine. And that included new cylinder heads, valve covers, coils, many other improvements, and more importantly, a new spark plug design. So 2004 through mid-year 2008 models had the old spark plug design you see here that's prone to breakage in the head, was a real nightmare for many years, and sometimes caused you to pull the cylinder heads just for a darn tune-up. Now, if you have this style spark plug, you have the older engines, don't fret. I have many videos on best practices to pull these out without breaking them and how to extract them in detail if you do happen to break them. This video is going to concentrate on the new spark plug design you see here. Looks like a regular spark plug, threads all the way down, and yes, they come right out, so it's really nice to have on these newer engines. Now, if you have a 2008 model year truck, Expedition, or F-150, how the heck are you going to know which kind of plug you have? You don't want to try pulling it out and break it off. So what do? Well, you go over to your engine and we do a little investigating. What we're going to do is we're going to go down to our ignition coil. You see one right there. There's a 7mm bolt that holds it into the valve cover and one electrical connector. After you take that out, you simply wiggle, and you pull it up and out of there and check it out. As you see here, this one has a brown colored ignition boot. That means you're good to go. You have the new spark plug design, no worries. If you have the black colored boot, that means you have the old cylinder head design, spark plug design, and all that, and you're gonna have problems. So you need to follow my other videos on how to get those out without breakage and how to extract them if need be. So today we're just going to concentrate on the new design. You see here the brown color boots and the new spark plugs themselves. One quick note on the engine compartment here. This new style engine compartment you see here with the PCM being in the firewall and out of your way started in 2007 for the Expedition, and it started in 2009 for the F-150. So if you have a late build 2008 F-150 that has a new engine, just like this one does, you're going to have a PCM bracket and stuff like that in the way over here. You got to pull off a couple 10mm bolts and it's out of your way. Otherwise, you can follow it exactly what I do to take off and get access to all these plugs and coils. Alright, now the first thing you want to do before you start taking off any of this intake snorkel is do a nice cleaning of the engine with some compressed air. So I get deep down in the valley there where all the coils are at on each side, go around the coils and all that and get it nice and clean. And then we'll of course do additional cleanings once all this is off of here as we work along here. Alright, this way we get a decently clean engine and we can start taking off the air intake snorkel here and get some access. Now the first thing you're going to notice is you're going to have a mass airflow sensor right here. So you want to pull that off and put it to the side, the connector on there. And then there's a couple locking tabs right here on the newer models that lock the air filter housing in. There's 3 of them. And then there's an 8mm clamp, looks just like this one right here, where it connects into the adapter for the intake there. So we're going to go ahead and take that off. You can use a 5/16 or 8mm. Let's loosen that. And then it's best to come over here, grab it from both sides, and kind of wiggle it off there like that. And then once you do that, this whole thing and all its resonators will come up and off of here because it's kind of hard to get it out of here. It's got a nice hook to it over here. There we go. Now, this may happen to you, and this is why I pay attention. Look at that. Nice clean air filter. There's a pebble that just fell into there from the top of the air filter housing. Pay attention to that stuff. Get it out of there before you start putting this stuff back on. So what I'm gonna do is put all my rags on top of here, and then at this point, we can fill this housing once again up here. Okay, you really don't want all this debris going into your engine, so make a nice ball of rags. Something like that. Boom, we can finish cleaning the engine at this point. So what I'm gonna do, since this is so nice and clean, we're gonna take it, put it off to the side, and then we can continue cleaning around the coils. All right, let's start off on the driver's side here, the left-hand bank. The very first thing you're gonna do is get this Pcv line right here out of the way. So you follow it down, there's a little green area, you kind of see it right there. You wanna pull back on that, and then we're gonna wiggle, 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 and it'll come right off. Now, once you get this one up, you wanna move it around the other side to break that one loose too, a little bit, and then you repeat the same procedure over here. Kind of get in here, make sure it's fully released, and then you simply pull up on it. And these O-rings get a little dry after a while, so I have to put a little extra effort into here. There we go. And it comes off. And that's those little green retainers on. You pull back, wiggle, 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 and it comes up. Next, we're gonna go through and we're going to disconnect each one of these coils on here. So it has a little retainer right here. You squeeze in on it and pull, and that'll come off each one of those on there. I like to pull the injectors also. Same thing, retainer, you pull back on it, and it comes right up and out of there. This way, there's plenty of room over here to work, and we're not fighting around any extra wires or the harness. So do the same thing all the way down. There's one for each cylinder, one injector, one coil. The very last coil on the side, or the injector, you don't have to disconnect because they angle it off to the side. Now what I also do is I'll pull the harness up off these retainers right here. So you can use a cat claw or a trim tool and get it up and off of here so you can pull it back a little bit. Again, so we have room to work. Get in here and break it free and lift it up off of there. They can get pretty corroded over time, but they do come off of there. And same thing down here. This one's on top of a vacuum line for the brakes. Never know what's gonna work. So it's nice to have different tools. Okay, now once it's off of there, I'll disconnect the VCT up here just to get a little more slack in the harness. And we'll pick it up and off of there. We'll get it wrapped around like this, and then we'll tuck these around as we go down. Now, at this point, we're gonna go ahead and pull each one of these coils out. There's a 7mm bolt right there. I like to use my little impact if I can. And get them out of there. Now, once the bolt comes out, you simply twist, 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 and then you grab the boot and the coil, give it a wiggle, and try to get them off together. These ones are original, so they're really sticking in there. The key is to grab it with it, just like this, and do that little twisting action, but more importantly, the pulling action, so they come off together. Now, let's say for the heck of it, you're pulling it, pulling, pulling, you did the best you could, and it still came apart. No big deal. These are made to come apart in 3 different pieces. You can see the spring right here, the coil itself. And if it does come apart, you simply stick this right back in, okay, just like that. And then you take your time to get that boot out of there without damaging it. Put some pliers on there or a needle nose. Looks like a good idea, but believe me, you're probably gonna tear it. So it's best to put the coil back onto it and then grab it like I was showing until it breaks free and get it out of there. Okay, and then once you do get it out, no big deal, slip it right back in here until it locks. It's like that, and it's back in business. Now, once you get your first coil off of here, just simply repeat the procedure for the rest of the coils on this bank, and they'll come right out. Now, once the coils are out, we need to do a thorough cleaning. You can see all this debris around the outside here. It's just caked with sand and dust and dirt, and it's just really bad. So what you want to do is break all that up and blow it all out of there. So we're gonna get the bulk of it out here right now. Heads up. Okay, so once you think everything's nice and clean, we're ready to start pulling plugs. We're gonna go after the cylinder we're working on, and we're going to clean it one more time in detail. Okay, we're just gonna concentrate on the one cylinder, and I even like to take a light, an inspection light, look down in there, because more times than not, especially with these, you'll find there's little pieces of gravel stuck down there between the hex and the cylinder wall, or the spark plug well, and the air won't get those out because they're wedged in there. So you want to make sure you get those out before you open up this engine also. So be ultra careful is the name of the game here. Now once you're sure it's clean, we can take our 9/16 spark plug socket and start taking it out. Now remember, the spark plug threads are extra long on here, so it's going to be quite difficult to get it out of here. It's going to take quite a bit of effort. So we're going to use our 3/8 ratchet here. It's extra long, and we're just going to slowly take these out. Now it's best to work on a warm engine, not cold, not hot, okay? But just be careful. Go out nice and slow. Don't use any power tools, and we can get these out of here without any problems. The reason why they're binding and they're so dry is because they did not put the anti-seize on from the factory. The new plugs are coated, but as you can see here, it's still a good idea to put anti-seize on them for lubricity. Sheer reason of lubricity, okay? You hear it? Yeah, so it's always a good idea. I mean, it's coming out no problem. The threads are just fine, all that stuff. Don't worry, don't fret. There's just a lot of threads, and they're dry. So there's gonna be resistance. And you don't wanna go too fast because then you can start having problems with galling. Here we go, we're at the last couple of threads. Okay. Still a little dry. It's getting nice and easy now. You can see they're long-winded, but that's because of the 3-valve design. Hey, at least these come out though, huh? Okay, so try to get this one out. The last few threads, nice and dry. Look at that. Okay, so because my spark plug socket magnet does not work anymore, we're going to use a regular magnet. And here we go. Right here you can see the plug. Look at that, nice and rusty, nice and dry. You want to put anti-seize on, believe me. So we got it out, they come out. At this point, I do another cleaning. Now the idea here is to go down into the cylinder with your air wand, all the way down in there until you almost touch the piston. It's not gonna damage anything, you're going there very light. We're gonna take it, we're gonna pressurize the cylinder, okay? What that's gonna do is gonna clean the threads and the spark plug well and push everything out because the pressure is so high in the cylinder. There we go. Okay, now the plug's out, cylinder's nice and clean, even the threads. We can go ahead and take our new plug and insert it down into there. Now, yours should have an insert into the spark plug socket that prevents it from falling like that. That's the whole key of a spark plug socket, to keep them intact. So what you want to do is take your hand and your extension here, and you want to thread it in by hand. So we can get a good feel for the threads on there, and by the time we go for the ratchet, we should start to feel it smooth out on here because the anti-seize is doing its job. And then what I use is a small 3/8 like this, and we can start threading it into there. Here we go. We can start feeling the anti-seize. Now what you can do is use a torque wrench for the spark plugs, or do what I do and I've been doing for years, no problems. You're gonna wrench on it with your little 3/8 ratchet. And at some point it's gonna come to a dead stop like I came to right now. All you gotta do now is just snug it up. You'll feel when it's not going anymore. And you're gonna restrict your torque by using a short 3/8 ratchet like this. So I'd say go another 1/8 of a turn or so, and that will seat the plug. Right there, I can feel it. It's absolutely perfect, and you're not gonna have any problems that way. No damage to the plug and no chance of it coming out. Now, of course, the first 2 cylinders over here on the left-hand bank are the easiest to do. So number 5 and number 6, you can use the long extension and the swivel. Whereas number 7 and 8, you may want to use something like this. You have the spark plug socket, a 3-inch extension, then a universal, and then your long extension. This way you can get in there, but you're still out here, ratcheting it out of there. So we'll go ahead and we'll lock it onto there, and we can still ratchet it out of there that way and get to those cylinders. So go ahead and repeat the same procedure we did for number 5 here. We're gonna clean it, change it, clean it again, and then we're gonna put in the new plug and tighten it down in there, and then move on to the next one and the next one. Now, if you're concerned about the threads in the head being too dry and possibly damaging them, what you can use is a little bit of WD-40 down the well, a little squirt like that, and as you're turning it out, it will wick its way down through the threads and help you loosen it that way. And may help make it come out even faster. I tend to avoid it if possible, because it can contaminate the cylinder, but we're gonna blow it out anyways. And we'll get most of that residue out, and the rest will burn off. Now on the passenger side here, the same exact rules apply. We're gonna clean off all the debris. We're gonna pull the coils out, same way. We're gonna pull the harness out of the way, and we're gonna pull the PCV line, you can see right here, off and get it out of the way. Then we're gonna use the long extension for the first 2, 1 and 2, and then the extension, the swivel for the 3 and 4 on here. And that's all there really is to it. The one thing that I do that makes it a little bit easier is I pull this heater hose, you can see right here, out of the way. I get a nice loop, large loop bungee like you see here, and then I'll hook it onto the other side and just give it a light tug. You can see it's nothing's pulling on too hard here, and that keeps it out of the way, and we don't have to pull this hose off that way and break the cooling system open. Okay, now going back together, it's very simple. You're simply gonna take your harness and put it back into the retainers in the valve cover, front and rear. Make sure it's pushed in all the way. And then we're gonna take our ignition coils and make sure they're nice and clean. We're gonna put a little bit of dielectric grease in the very end of it there. Then we're gonna take it and we're gonna put it into one of the spark plug wells. They're all the same. And make sure it's centered in there and fully seated, okay, just like so. And then we're gonna take our 7mm screw and we're gonna get it lined up in there and started a few threads in there. Then we're gonna repeat that process for the other cylinders on there, and then simply tighten them down and then start reconnecting all your electrical connectors. The one important tip I can give you is to make sure that each one of these clicks when you put it into your injectors and your coils, and make sure everything's locked in and secure. Don't forget your PCV lines on both sides. Make sure it's go back into the intake and the valve cover here, and that's it.